Hello, everyone. Books with Banks back again with another book review for you today. I just finished up Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved it, but a few notes before we get into the review itself. First, if you haven't already, it would really mean a lot if you could like and subscribe. Second, I usually read and talk about fantasy and sci-fi, which this book is neither, but I do feel it is a useful exercise to occasionally read outside of our favorite genres and outside of our comfort zones. Third and lastly, there will be no heavy spoilers or anything like that for this review. All that out of the way, here we go. So, I guess first and foremost, what is this book about? Daisy Jones and the Six, published by Ballantine Books, or the trade paperback was in 2020. This is about the forming of a fictional band in the late 60s and all throughout the 70s. And it goes through their unique ups and downs in the lives of the seven band members, how certain songs came together, the writing and composition of those, how the band affected everyone's personal lives, and so on and so forth. Now, while the titular group is fictional, it does exist in a space with very real references to real locations and people in LA and in the rock music scene during this time period. If I had to say the titular band and its members reminded me of any groups, I would say maybe some sort of mixture of Jefferson Airplane and Fleetwood Mac. Anyway, an interesting thing about this book, one of the most unique things about this book, is that Taylor Jenkins Reid has chosen to write it entirely in this oral history interview answer question format, or Q&A kind of format, with more of just the answers, not the cues. So doing this, she's telling the story through interview quotes and responses from all of the band members and acquaintances, people kind of loosely tied to the band, all of which are reflecting on their time in the band in hindsight, and reflecting on their time in the band in hindsight years later, years after the fact. So maybe to kind of think about how this reads, think about the style of like a VH1 TV documentary, but maybe one that takes itself a little bit more seriously than those do. And basically the band starts with two brothers, Billy and Graham Dunn, and they grow from there until they become the Six. And finally, the seventh addition to the group is the popular and super groovy, at the time, Daisy Jones. This book covers love affairs, drugs, alcohol. Thematically, this book also covers things like pride and regret. Anyway, the characters. I thought Reid did an outstanding job making the voices of all of her characters so unique in this book, where you could give me a quote by any of the band members, and I could probably tell you who's saying it. The themes and general ideas explored here. There is a lot about addiction, whether that be alcohol, pills, or what have you. And Reid, I think, very successfully conveys what the struggle is like for addicts when they're using, but also when they're trying to stay sober. There's also a lot about different kinds of love. Sure, you can love like the cool chick, like the Daisy Jones here, or you can love your stereotypical kind of comfortable wife and home life. And then there's everyone's love and respect for each other, but only really so far as the music they're making, kind of because when they're making the music, they can put aside a lot of the drama that exists between them. This band is rife with interpersonal drama and tension in their personal lives, but they all still really seem to care about the music that they're making. There's also some interesting insights into what the creative process must have been like for a lot of musicians and songwriters from this era. There's some really cool stuff about gender as well, looking at, I'd say probably our three main female characters. You have Daisy Jones, Camilla, and Karen, all of which struggle with their involvement and relationship to the band and its members in some way, shape, or form. Also, their relationship to the Hollywood scene and stardom and band life. And their struggles are particularly unique because they aren't given the same opportunities to be as just reckless, or to be as successful as a lot of the male characters are. Then, last but not least, just really quickly, I want to touch on the humor. It's pretty good. Reid, I think, uses this oral history format to great effect here. So you'll have scenes where like 3 to 4 characters will be talking about a really serious, heavy kind of moment, like band or album defining kind of moment. And then Reid throws in another quote from a different band member, kind of a funnier, more carefree band member. Just something like, yeah, I always had a feeling like those two were hooking up. Something like that that just totally undercuts the seriousness of what came before. And I think it's really, really good at producing that comedic effect. So yeah, definitely expect little sprinklings of humor throughout this book in that style. All in all, I continue to be happy to not only so narrowly just read sci-fi and fantasy, but to try and explore other genres and popular authors. And I feel like even in the worst case scenarios, it at least helps me appreciate fantasy even more. But in the best case scenarios, like with Daisy Jones and the Six, it actually turns out to be a really terrific novel. One of my favorites I've read this year so far. And I think that should do it. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.